All right, good morning. We are on week 20, day 4. We are on the final day of React. Let me pull over the README so everybody tuning in on YouTube can see. So today we are kind of just finishing up everything we've learned with React and building out an app. And the final piece is to Dockerize this and deploy it so that we can use it. We'll be doing a Docker compose between our backend, our Django REST framework, and our Postgres, and then this React app now. We've done this earlier when we were in the web, I believe it was. Let's take a look. Yes. No, that's API, Dockerized API. Maybe it was week 7. Oh, goodness. Okay. We've Dockerized this before somewhere. I'm not going to click around and find out, but we've done it with just our static files. So our HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and now we have a React app. So we're going to learn how to package up our React app into a Docker image that we can run everywhere. So the README, we're pretty much just following it. It's a very good guide. If we run into issues we've already discussed, we're going to troubleshoot them together and figure out what's wrong with it. I don't anticipate very many issues, but we started by cloning down this demo app that we have. Let's go ahead and see if this thing runs because I just cloned it down. So we're already where we need to be. We're in this project. So let's npm install because I haven't done npm install yet because there's no node modules folder up here, directory. Those node modules we need for all the dependencies in our project. So first things first, when I clone down a React app, is I need to npm install. So now we see we've got our npm install getting our node modules. And I believe the README doesn't tell you anything. Okay, that's fine. But we know what to do. So we did our npm install. Hopefully there's no dependencies that we don't know about that we need to install as well, but we will see when we pull this app up. So let's do our npm run dev then and just see if this app works. It'll be a surprise. I don't know if it works. Oh, it does. Great. I love when things work. So we're acting like we just coded this app and we're testing it locally. We see we're on our local host port and, it works. Our nav bar works. We go to stuff. Here's our stuff page. We want to go to things. There's our things page. So our React app works. Awesome. That's the first step we got to do. Get it working locally. It's working locally. But as we know, well, it worked on my machine doesn't really get us anywhere when there's production issues. So let's work on Dockerizing this so that we can deploy it and it will work everywhere, not just on our machine. Let's get out of our app there. So I've shut it down. Okay, so we are going to use, when we Dockerize our different components. So like with Django REST framework, we used Python as our base image, right? So we need a base image to begin Dockerizing this image here. We need something to kind of set the foundation for building up our application on top of. When we deploy this locally, we're using like built-in servers to see it on our web browser. So we need something to do to serve it, to act as a server for us. When we were doing our HTML, CSS, JavaScript, we would, right click and like run with live server or whatever. That was acting as a server for our front end. VS Code was doing that for us. So now Nginx. Nginx is the server that we're going to be using, and that should be kind of familiar because we've done this before. but we are going to start with that base image of Nginx. You can see in the README, there's some links that you can go read about the image on Docker Hub. It's a nice lightweight server for us to use to deploy our front end. So first things first, we need to, let's see. I don't know what I want to point out first. Okay, so when we did our npm run build and it got our node modules up and running, it also got this package JSON up and running too. And somewhere in here, there's something called build. We can see right there. There's a script called build. This script, let's see. When we run that script, which is what we do when we say npm run build, which we haven't done yet. So we've got to do this. When we need to build this project before we can deploy it. So we're going to do, so we did npm run dev before, and that brings us up and lets us view our application on the browser. But now we're going to do npm run build. So it's going to run this build script. Let's see what happens when we run this. npm run build. All right, when we ran that, all of a sudden we get this new folder here called dist. This dist folder, if we look in it here, or this directory, we can see that there's some files created in there. There's an index.html. We know what that is. That's usually the entryway into any HTML page, right? And a whole bunch of other stuff. Looks crazy. That's okay. You don't need to know about this, but basically what that npm run build did is it created your HTML page, your JavaScript page, and your CSS files, created these files from your React app. Because that is what the browser expects to have, is it still expects to have an HTML, JavaScript, and CSS file in order to display your page on our web browser. So we did all this fancy work in React, and when we built this project, React went ahead and put them in those files for us, ready to use. And those files are what we are going to want to provide to our server that we're using as our base image, which is Nginx. So we're going to need to, let's see, if we remember back, we needed to copy those files, the HTML, JavaScript, CSS files, into our Nginx server in our Docker file. So we're going to do the same exact thing for React. In our root of our project here, we're going to make a new file, and this is going to be our Docker file. And we're going to start, we always have to start with our base image, right? Where we're going to get what we're going to use to start our build for our Docker image. And we've already discussed we're going to use Nginx. And we're going to use Alpine. Due to specific dependencies and I guess I think it's a little more lightweight. We looked into this before, I think, why we're using this specific version of Nginx. But this is our base image we're starting from with our Docker file. And now, if you look at the documentation, let's see if I can pull it up here. Tab. This is, oh, that's about Nginx. Now I want the image on Docker Hub so we can see how to use this image. Because we've got this image, I don't know necessarily how to use it to make it do what I want to do. So let's take a look, and we could see hosting simple static content. That sounds like what we want to do. So we see we've got this from, and then we copy some directory into this user share Nginx HTML. So this image expects, oh my gosh, I can't talk this morning, expects us to copy whatever static files that we have to build our front-end web page and copy it into this directory in our image. And that's just how it's set up. That's how we have to do it. So we're going to do this. We're going to copy our files into this directory. So let's grab this. Now, where are my files that I need to copy into this directory? So I've said that it's expecting our HTML, JavaScript, CSS files. That's what we need to compile our web page. So where am I going to get those files?
In your dist directory.
Correct. In this dist directory. So in dist, we have everything we need. Here's our HTML, JavaScript, CSS files, all packaged up and ready to go. So we're going to not copy from a static, that's just an example. We're going to copy from this location, the dist directory. And we're just going to grab it all. We can grab everything because it will look in here and make sure to get the files correctly that it needs. So as the README says, seems too easy. And it is. We just have this minimal Alpine server that we're working as our container. We just got to copy over our files into this location in the container. And then once we go ahead and run this build, it should work just like we see when we run locally. So let's take a look and make sure it works. So first we need to, let's make sure nothing else is running. It's always good to check. Let me see, I'm gonna pull this up more and clear it so it's higher on the screen here. It's always good to check and make sure nothing else is running. Office database. Oh, hopefully it's not still. What is it? PS-A. Okay, so there's no containers running, so that's good. I don't need that Docker. Is it just clean? Okay. So now I should be good, clean. Okay, nothing. I don't have anything Docker on my system right now, which is good. I just want to focus on this at this point. So let's go ahead and Docker build. We're going to call this React server. Okay, so when I'm running this here in this Dockerize React router directory, remember with Docker, anytime you run Docker build, it's going to look within that directory you're in for a Docker file. Okay, and then once it finds that, it will run the Docker file. So I'm going to go ahead and build this, starting a build. Here, Docker build X. Okay, let's do what they say. Let's Docker build X build and see if that changes anything. See, like I said, I didn't run through this, so we're going to have to troubleshoot together. Okay. X build. Start a build. Options path. Do I need to put a, oh, no, I forgot something. What did I forget? Let's look here. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say you forgot the -T React server.
Well, I got that in there,
Oh,
but
you did that. Okay.
so it says that I need a path. So you do Docker build or build X and some options, which that's the -T just to name it.
The dot.
The dot, yes, the path of where we're going to look for that. So I guess it doesn't automatically. I misspoke. It's been a long time since we've done some Docker. We have to specify where the Docker file is. So it's here. That's why we do the dot.
Yeah.
Art, did you have a question?
I was sort of, you could just refresh my memory again, because like you said, it's been a while. The difference between Docker build and Docker compose is.
So Docker build is only going to look for this one Docker file. Docker compose, we have like a YAML file that separates each different component. Like we have API, database, front end, and the compose spins up several different Docker images and puts them all together in a container. Does that answer it clearly enough?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So right now we've just got one Docker file. We're going to make one Docker image that's just our front end. So we're not worrying about any other components. We don't have a Postgres database that we need to get worked in here. But this is what I was missing, this dot. Had I read this a little bit more, I just stopped at this errors. I'm like, oh, I got to run that command instead. Read the full error. It requires an argument, usage, options, and path. Okay, so now when I run this, I was able to just run Docker build. I didn't have to do build X. I was able to just do the Docker build, give it the name React server, and look in this directory here. So we can see it worked. It's did, from this image, which it went out and grabbed, copy this directory into there, and it worked. So now, once we have that, let's take a look and make sure the image is built correctly here. Docker images, we can see I have this image. Now, remember, when you build an image, that's all we did. We just made an image. It's not running yet. It's just sitting there waiting for us to use. So in order to look at it and make sure that our web page is up and working, we're going to do a Docker run. Now, let's see. We also need to put in a port mapping. Because Nginx listens on port 80, and that's also where the HTTP, that's the designated HTTP port. So we need to map from our laptop a different port into the containers port 80. If that makes sense. So we need to map our port, and this is where it's going to be listening on our laptop. We're going to tell it listen on 8090 because we don't want to tie up our HTTP port that we want to keep open on our laptop. We don't want it running there. We're listening there. And then it will map to the port 80 inside the image, which is what Nginx listens on. Okay, so we are going to Docker run. We're doing a port mapping from our local laptop or computer, whatever we have, to the 80 in the container. And I want to run this React server image. So that's what we're going to put here. Okay, and this is in the README if you're not following along super fast. Okay, so we didn't do a -D or anything. So our image is going to be running, we'll see everything come up in the terminal here. So everything that happens when we visit this image is going to come up down here in the terminal. But now it should be running on localhost 8090. So we can go there and see, let's see if it's up and running. Localhost 8090. All right, it is running. Our container is, or not our container, sorry, we're on an image. Our image is running. And now we can see everything that we had it doing locally is now working just as well within the image itself. Super easy, right? Super easy. So everything, we just copied those files that were produced by our npm run build. Those HTML, JavaScript, CSS files, we just copied those into our Nginx server. And the server is listening. We're going to port 8090, but in the image it's listening on 80. So everything we're doing here is getting sent to the containers port 80. It's listening and reacting to where we're asking it to go on this website. Okay, so we know it runs now. So we tested it locally first, just our application locally, it worked. We built a Docker image. We tested the Docker image locally. The Docker image works. Let's go ahead and see every time I visited a different page on that image, we could see the get requests happening here. So that's kind of cool. So if you're debugging and you need help, you can go ahead and run this without the -D just to see all the output below. We're gonna kill this. Okay. So it worked. There's no containers running or anything. Okay. So next up, after we're done making sure that this Docker file works locally, this is when we need to push this up to Docker Hub. Because when we push it up to Docker Hub, then we're able to just grab the image and run it anywhere. So in your AWS instance, you can just go to your Docker Hub and grab the image and run it in your instance. And that is the point of doing our images and our Docker Compose with containers. So now here, if you're not already logged in, you'll have to do your Docker login, but you should be. And then this is, we're just going to pull this directly from the README, the two commands. First you need to rename your image. So this is called React Server. I may already have a React server up there. I don't know if I've left one in there, so I'm gonna name this too, just because I don't know if it's up there. Change this and replace it with your Docker Hub username. It's taken a while. And then the name of the image that we are pushing up. Okay. So, well, wait, tag. I think tag is, let's try this. I think tag is where we grab what we're pushing up. It's not very clear in our README. We'll need to rename and push up. Yeah, never mind. I can't rename this here. This is React Server. That's what you're grabbing. And then I'm going to rename it here. This is where it's going. Okay, so it didn't complain. It took that okay. Now we've tagged it and we said, grab this, this image and rename it to this, because remember, in order to push to your Docker Hub, it has to have your Docker Hub username / whatever you call it. So now we're going to push to, let's see, your Docker Hub. Okay. Well, requested access to resources denied. Let's see. Now let's push again. Why is it denied? Let me go see if I have it in my Docker Hub already. Even a 2. I might have a 2. I'm just logging in on the side here, and we'll, if anybody else is following along, were you able to push successfully, or are you having issues as well?
I'm with you, Tiffany. Yeah, I was able to push successfully.
Okay, I think I may have this named already.
Yeah, I ran across initially I tried to push it as React Server and you know, without putting my name to it, of course, and it
Oh,
complaints.
my issue is I forgot my username. So
Oh,
Tiffany Joelle, I'm trying to push to somebody else's
yeah.
Docker Hub. So if you try to push to somebody else's Docker Hub, you won't be able to. And I should have seen that one. Did I do login?
Yeah, you logged in successfully.
But it
Now,
didn't tell me my username there. Oh, okay.
yeah,
So
will it automatically? So if we push tab when we're typing in our username, will it automatically fill in the correct username or not? I don't know. I didn't try that.
I'm not sure. I'm gonna tag this.
Yeah, I had to look at my Docker username as well because I don't know it by heart. So
Now we can push to Tiffany Joe. Okay, there we go. So make sure you have your right username. Make sure you don't have something else named similarly. Because when I'm in my Docker hub here, I could see that I did have a React server. So if I had tried to just push React server, it wouldn't let me. Let's go ahead and refresh and see if we got this 2 in here now. We do. So I was able to push up here. And so now I'm going to go through and let me clean. Unable to delete reference in multiple repositories. What does that mean? Is it the one I messed up? Must be forced. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do some.
oh, oh yes, and the answer to that question is yes. It will automatically populate your use
Oh,
along with the name of the uh, image. So you put the slash, the forward slash. That's cool. I did not know that.
okay. So if you have trouble removing this, you might have to do a force -F the image. Okay, so now I don't have any images. And I did that because I want to. We're not even going to look at this anymore over here on this side. We're just working purely in our terminal. But I'm going to now pull down this image and run it locally. So we're pretending like somebody else made this and is letting me pull it. Okay, so I'm going to have to remember is it just Docker pull and then the image name? Oops. That's to push. I think it's just Docker pull and then the image name. Yeah. So this would be like if I want to run this in my AWS instance. Let's say I'm in there in my AWS instance. I pull it down. I've got, oh, not LS. I've got now this image that I've pulled down from Docker Hub. I'm not running anything locally. I'm not doing any Docker build and Docker run locally. I am just pulling down an image, and now I'm going to run this image locally. So now I should be able to go back to our local host. What was our port we mapped to? 8090? Am I on HTTP? Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Which port are we? It is 8090, right? Or maybe I just go to local. Oh my gosh. This was not a good example here. Or port 80. Not stuff. Running it locally. Why can't I find where it is? Running. Where are you running? Swear it should be here. All right, I might have to look at this. I'm getting a headache though. There's something super easy I'm missing, and I just can't think of it right now. Let me look at our. We're gonna go back to handy dandy curriculum. Probably have to map. That's probably what it is. I sat here and just did a Docker run. I gotta still do the port mapping. It's not mapped. Okay, so I'm gonna basically do the same thing I did when we ran our local image, which is this Docker run with our port mapping. That's what I had to do. But instead of running React server image, which was our local one, I'm gonna run the one that we pulled down, which is my Tiffany Joel one. That's it. Now it's actually running somewhere. We had to identify that port mapping. So we can see you can't just leave it on and expect port 80 to work for you. It doesn't work. Going to you have to tell where it's coming from on your local host and going to port 80 in the image. Okay, so it's running. Things are working. But that one, this is how you would do in your AWS instance. You'd pull it down, you'd do your port mapping. But next week, we're going to see how we just use our Docker Compose to get everything running nicely. And we have some scripts to help with that too. But any questions on this was it for lecture. Any questions on how we got our dist folder up, made our Docker file, copied everything from that folder into there. Make sure to do a port mapping when you're running the image. Let's go back to where we were. Yep, that was it. Super short lecture today. All right, I'll stop recording then and we'll go over what we're going to do for the day.